Welcome to the Ecommerce Coffee Break podcast. In today's episode, we discuss why PPC is the secret to recovering a failed product launch. Joining me on the show today is Carly McMillen, co-founder at ppcfarm.com. So let's dive right into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Coffee Break podcast. Today we want to find out why PPC, paid advertising, is the secret to recovering a failed product launch on Amazon. Joining me on the show today is Carly McMillen. She is the co-founder of PPC Farm, an Amazon marketing agency specializing in PPC strategies that drive real profit. With over 8 years in e-commerce and 4 years focus on the Amazon ecosystem, Carly's experience includes helping grow multiple brands to 7 figures and launching products for an 8-figure seller. So let's welcome her to the show. Hi, Carly. How are you today?
Hi, Klaus. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's talk about product launches. Obviously, a bad product launch can be devastating for the seller, not only from the emotional part, but also for the business. So what are common mistakes sellers do when they try to recover from a failed launch?
Sure. So I think one big mistake out of the gate is that people don't necessarily give it enough time. I think you need at least 90 days to really determine whether or not something has quote unquote failed. We know now, there's been a lot of research recently that there is not actually a honeymoon period from Amazon. There's an article that came out recently. Someone did a really deep dive into actually Amazon's patents for the A9 algorithm and discovered that, in fact, from the horse's mouth, there's no honeymoon period. So Amazon is unfortunately not going to give you a boost, which kind of makes sense. Amazon doesn't really show a lot of love to sellers. So you're going to want to give it enough time. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, with that in mind, making sure, obviously from the beginning, that you've done your market research, you understand the competitive landscape, you've got high quality images, SEO, and all of that. So those, I think, would be kind of the things to consider when you're first launching something. And then when it comes to the relaunch, don't just do the same thing that you've already done again. That would be another really big mistake, just relaunching it and dumping more spend into PPC, that kind of a thing. That's not going to be the way to go. Because some people will try to do relaunches if they've received a lot of, negative reviews, that kind of thing, and they'll start a new ASIN, something like that. But you might just end up getting the very same results. So those are some kind of mistakes that I see people making when just out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. No, makes perfect sense. I mean, just relaunching and trying to do the same with expecting different results probably won't work. So what kind of data points or KPIs are you looking at when you try to figure out what went wrong?
Yeah. And, I think that's really the first thing that you need to kind of do is a little bit of that soul searching and understanding, okay, let's say it's been 120 days, you've given it enough time, but it's just not working, right? You're just not getting the results that you wanted to see. And so that's what the first step is, figuring out, why did this fail? Was the listing bad? Is there something in the images or, copywriting, SEO, all of that was bad? Is the price too high? Are you not competitive price wise? Again, these are things that you should obviously have kind of thought through during the first phase, but sometimes it's not always obvious. And so that's really the first step, is figuring out what happened. Why did this product launch fail? And then another thing and this is kind of where PPC fits in, is, were you maybe bringing in the wrong kind of traffic? That's really what PPC is that's the role that it's playing in your product launch, is bringing those eyeballs to your page, right? And so it's possible that one of the reasons that your product has failed is because you were not really targeting the right audience. You were bringing in the wrong kind of traffic.
Yeah, no, that makes absolutely sense. Once you're targeting the wrong audience, you can't expect sales coming from there. Now, let's dive a little bit on what you understand as a relaunch. So is it really starting from scratch, or is this adjusting? How do you approach this?
Yeah, so in my mind, there's a few different ways that you could relaunch a SKU, right? You could, like you said, completely start from scratch, where you have a brand new ASIN, brand new listings, starting from 0 ratings and reviews, that kind of thing. I think that is something that you kind of want to avoid if you can. If you have built up ratings and reviews that are decent, you can recover from that. And so I would really be looking at a relaunch as almost a repositioning of your product, of your marketing. So I have an example that I want to share from a client that we've worked with recently. They are a ketone ester. So this is a product specifically for those on the keto diet, and they want something that will help sort of replenish those ketone salts essentially, while they're kind of like fasting, or utilizing the keto diet. Anyway, that's what the product is. But they had been marketing it as an energy drink, essentially. So a lot of the keywords that they were targeting, a lot of the copy within their listing was targeted as an energy drink. So then they're going up against really big brands like Red Bull and all of these huge names with huge budgets. And of course, as I'm sure you know, within the beverage or supplements kind of energy drink category, cost per clicks are also really, really high. So it's just really easy to blow out your budgets really fast for not a lot of return. And particularly in a case like this, where they weren't really drilling down into what is that unique selling point of their product, which is the fact that they're not really an energy drink. They're a ketone ester. That's the category that they should be going after. And so that's where PPC can kind of fit in, because you are essentially bringing in the wrong kind of traffic. You're bringing in the wrong audience. And this, of course, can be addressed with, quality keyword research and that kind of thing. But that's where things can break down if that foundation isn't solid. If you haven't really understood what the heck you're selling, or if you're an agency and you don't take the time to understand your client's product on a deeper level, then that's where product launches can fail, but where you can also see, a relaunch being a lot more successful. So with this particular client, when we went and, audited their account, we noticed, okay, are they an energy drink? Because that's what they're targeting. And then after discussing with them and realizing, no, like they're not an energy drink, and that's not what we should be targeting. We were able to help to make them a lot more successful and improve ACOSs and improve profitability as well, just because they had been spending so much trying to compete against those big names.
I think it was a great example that you just gave there. At PPC Farm, we're always helping a lot of clients with that. So is this the general approach from your side, going directly into PPC, or do you start basically from the roots and looking at the listings, and then you work your way through all the different instances to get like a overview of everything?
Yeah, so our primary service offering is PPC, but PPC does not exist in a vacuum. It's really holistic, and you have to you can throw as much money as you want on advertising, but if you're not getting conversions, you need to address that. So of course, it's in our best interest as well to ensure that we are understanding the product and optimizing the listing and images and all of that as much as possible to ensure that we are reaching the right audiences, and the right audiences are, not only landing on the page, but converting, right? And so we will often, before we start working with a client, we go into that. We make recommendations and kind of consult on those things. And sometimes it makes sense for them to not put their resources into advertising right away, and instead put those resources into, listing optimization and image improvement and that kind of thing, because they really do go hand in hand. I mean, hey, we could take your money if you want to pay us to run your PPC, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy with the results because you're not going to get the kind of conversions that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. With the data that you get from PPC campaigns, is there a way that you might find also other niche areas where a campaign might work better than what the seller has in mind?
Absolutely. So this can come from two places. It can come from your initial keyword research, which we've kind of talked about as really being the foundation, and getting creative and kind of going a little bit broader in the application or use cases of a product at the keyword research phase. And that can kind of capture some of those alternate or unusual uses for a product. But it can also come directly from your search term reports. So which you should definitely be regularly reviewing those search term reports to see not just basically what the heck is someone typing into that search bar on Amazon when they're actually converting for your product. And so we have a case, and I'll share another case of this. So we have one of our products for the parent company is as a disposable bowl, or like a pack of disposable bowls, just like something you would use for, I don't know if you're having a party or a barbecue or something like that, but originally we wanted to market it for humans, like, it's a bowl that humans eat out of, and great. But we noticed during our keyword research phase that actually a lot of people use these disposable bowls for pets, for dogs or cats typically. And so we started marketing it as a pet bowl. And that actually completely, sales just took off because nobody else was talking about disposable bowls like this. Like they were targeting what I mentioned, which is probably the first thing that occurs to you. Oh, it's for barbecues, parties, concessions, supplies, that kind of thing, but not for pets. And so that's where, like, again, this is a little bit different than my first example because it's not really about understanding the product, but it's about getting creative with the ways that you're positioning it and marketing it. And so PPC can help you kind of understand, what customers are searching for, and sometimes it will really surprise you.
That's a very, very good example. I like that. I want to dive a little bit into AI. I'm a big of AI fan, as most listeners know by now. And I want to find out how Amazon, with all the AI tools that are coming into play now, sort of competes against the ads. Is that hand in hand, or are you competing against the AI? Give me a bit of an insight there.
Yeah, so we are also big believers in AI. I think it's extremely useful, and it's helped us so much. Even with that keyword research and that kind of thing, it's great for brainstorming different use cases for products as well. But so in terms of how ads interact with AI, I think it's really complementary. I think it's really symbiotic because, for example, one thing that you can do to understand as well how customers are searching for your product and what kinds of questions they have is by going to your product page and just start talking to Rufus. That's Amazon's, that's Amazon's internal AI solution. Start talking to Rufus and ask it questions and see what questions it's suggesting. And if it can't find the answers to those questions, because all it's doing is scraping your listing, right? If it can't find the answers to those questions, then that means there's a gap. And that's great news because you can go in and fill that gap. Back to my pet bowl example. Let's say you're asking Rufus, like, is this suitable for pets? And Rufus says, I don't know, I can't find any information on that in the listing. Then okay, I need to go and make sure that I'm being indexed for pet related keywords by adding them to my listing. And then you can take it a step further and then say, I'm going to go and add those keywords to my campaigns as well at PPC.
Okay. I want to talk a lot about the timeline of recovering a failed product launch.
Yeah.
You said in the beginning, you need to give it some time, 90, 120 days to really see if it picks up or not. If you have done a relaunch, how does it work? Does it go quicker, or do you have to wait again?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on, every situation is going to be different, but, in theory and in most cases, it should go quicker because you do have a little bit of traction. You already have some data. You're able to make decisions faster, right? Because that's a big part of the waiting period initially is waiting for that data to come in, right? Waiting for people to waiting for those search terms to come through, waiting for people to click on your product and understanding, right? Because now that you have that data, I mean, that's one of your most important resources. We talked about the search term report, but even just high level PPC data can also help you understand, again, asking yourself that question, why that product may have failed. If you're getting a lot of impressions and clicks, but no conversions, then you've got more of a conversion issue, right? Versus if you're not getting enough traffic, maybe you do have a relevancy issue with keywords in your campaigns, that kind of thing. So the relaunch of a product should, in most cases, it should go faster because you have the data and because you're able to make decisions faster.
Mm-hmm. You already gave me two good examples of how we turned around a seller account or a campaign. Are there specific industries or niches where this works very well?
Yeah, so I think that it works best, this kind of approach where you're, every niche, you need to understand what your unique selling point is, right? And your point of differentiation. But I think it works particularly well for cases like, for example, this disposable bowl, which can have such a huge variety of use cases, right? So it tends to work best with products that are more like consumer goods and just have a really wide variety of possible ways that someone might not only be using it, but searching for it on Amazon, right? And so I think that that's when you're going to see the most come out of this. Whereas, even with the ketone ester, there's a lot of different ways that people might search for that or, understand how to use it, that kind of thing. But I think it would work less well for products where, there's really just kind of a few main ways that people call this thing or search for this thing. You can really only use it one way, right? And in those cases, then it would likely not be as viable a solution to kind of expand your traffic sources. In that case, it might be an issue where the market is just highly competitive, your pricing isn't competitive, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Walk me a little bit through the onboarding process if a new client approaches you and things haven't gone well and you're about to turn this around. What kind of steps are involved there?
Yeah, so I think that pretty much all of our clients come to us because they have some kind of a problem, right? Anytime a client is reaching out to an agency, it's never like, oh, my PPC is going perfect. I'm just looking for someone to take it off my hands. That's almost never the case. Clients always have some sort of problems, but that's okay. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to solve those kinds of things. So whenever we're onboarding new clients, our whole process is really centered around understanding their goals and on the ASIN level, right? So, we run into a lot of sellers, and sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get it out of them what their true goals are, because, it's like, well, we want to grow. We want to grow our revenue. Well, okay, that's great. I think we all want to grow your revenue, but tell me a little bit more, like what challenges have you faced with your products? Why has it worked in the past and now it's not working, or has it just never worked? Understanding kind of the history of everything. And like I said, it's so important to do this on the ASIN level. Getting those high level KPIs is important too. But if you don't understand, again, why every single ASIN is important and sort of the history of every single ASIN, I think that you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in a way. And really utilizing the client's knowledge of their own products, because while we might be experts in PPC, we're not an expert in the client's product. So having that conversation about why this product is important to the world, why it's important to them, what it does, what's so special about it, is going to really benefit us with our keyword research. And because without that understanding, I think it's very difficult to, just have a copy paste sort of a strategy.
No, I think it's quite important if you hire an agency that they ask the questions that you don't ask yourself, because you can get blind being in your own business, and a fresh set of eyes and somebody asking the right questions might actually help you more than PPC campaigns in your business. That might be, I don't know, you might be just communicating the wrong way. And again, having someone asking the right questions, very, very helpful. Is there any kind of homework that immersion needs to do before they approach you?
I think having like you said, your understanding of your products and understanding why why that product is the best. What are your points of differentiation? I think those are just kind of good general business practices that you understand, why you're doing that. But as I said, they're just kind of standard business sort of questions. And if you're coming up with a business plan and that kind of thing, you should have absolutely already gone through that. But you'd be surprised how many people, I think, especially with Amazon, they're just like, I'm just gonna, throw a product up there, or they're doing drop shipping or whatever, right? And it's just like kind of oh, I saw that there were a lot of people buying that, so I decided that was going to be a good product, So I think it's important to make sure that you have a product that is sellable before and that people want it, and you've really done that good market research and competitor research, because engaging an agency, we're not magicians, right? We're not going to be able to just sell something that isn't competitive, right? So, but I know that can be a little bit of a hard pill to swallow for folks, especially now. I think back in the day, it was a lot easier for newcomers to, the barrier to entry was just a lot lower to start selling on Amazon and to be successful. But I think now, you really need that moat around a brand, basically, especially for sellers in the US. I think that there's just so much competition from overseas. Amazon's own kind of answer to Temu, the whole Amazon haul thing, I think that makes it really, just the barrier to entry is a lot more difficult. And I think for anybody thinking like this is going to be a get rich quick side hustle kind of a thing, that they might want to reconsider that. But yeah.
No, very wise words. I think the good times, the golden times, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, when a lot of things started like Shopify, these are long over. So you need to really treat it as a professional business, and that takes a lot of know-how and experience to get there. Who's your perfect customer? What kind of brands do you work with?
Yeah, so our perfect customer is going to be someone who has answered those questions for themselves. And they are, if someone is already seeing some success on Amazon, then obviously it's going to be easier for us to grow that success. It's obviously not impossible to launch a brand new product on Amazon, but a brand, really an established brand that is also doing off Amazon things as well. That's not something that we help with, but the reason that I say that, and you might that might sound a little bit weird, but the reason that I say that is kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, which is in order to be successful, you need to have that brand presence. And I think you're not going to really be able to do that on Amazon, because Amazon doesn't really allow you to tell your story, right? I think a lot of brands, what makes them so strong is their story, whether that's the story of the founders or, the product and why it's special. I mean, you get only so many characters on Amazon to really tell that. And I think that, and then for a lot of brands, that's more easily communicated with things like video and social media and that kind of thing. And so Amazon, I think if you're trying to just be an Amazon first brand or even Amazon only brand, it tends to just be more difficult. Not saying that we can't work with clients like that, but our ideal client is someone who does have a bit more of a brand presence.
No, and it makes perfect sense. Now, most serious sellers nowadays are selling omnichannel anyway. But I think it's important to have someone with the expertise in Amazon, because Amazon is a beast in its own. It's a universe in its own.
Yes.
And if you're on a different platform and you do your other marketing strategies and activities, then you can't do everything. So it's always good to have an expert there. How does your pricing structure work?
Yeah, so the way that our pricing works is based on a percentage of PPC revenue. So only the money that you're making from advertising is what we would take a percentage of. We prefer to do that because we feel that kind of helps us have aligned goals. I mean, you want to make more money, and if you make more money, then so do we, right? So that's why we charge based on a percentage of PPC revenue. We've had folks be like, well, then aren't you just going to spend a bunch and you can increase PPC revenue that way, right? I mean, we all know Amazon is pay to play. And to that, I always just say, well, if we do that, then you'll just fire us. So that's really not in our best interest. Really, we want to have that alignment where, we're growing and you're growing at the same time. And of course, as PPC grows, your organic sales are going to grow as well. And we don't touch that. That's yours. You've done all that work, for example, in building your brand. And so those organic sales are yours. We don't take a piece of that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good deal. Before our coffee break comes to an end today, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, so I think, really the takeaway from when it comes to launching or relaunching a product and utilizing PPC to help you in that is understanding that PPC is going to be one tool in your toolkit for understanding why a product failed or didn't fail. But there's a lot of other soul searching that you need to do and understanding, everything holistically. So understanding your listing and understanding really what the heck you're selling and what is different and special about your product. And then I guess as far as PPC Farm goes and the agency, we do offer a 60-day free trial to all new clients, which I think is kind of unique. And I wanted to just share that with your listeners as well. And the reason we do that is because we know how hard it can be to find an agency that works for you. And we want to have an opportunity to prove to you that we can help you and kind of give you that ability to test us out, because particularly if you're switching from, if you've worked with agencies before, I know sometimes people can have bad experiences and get burned, and so it can be hard to start dating again. And so we believe that the free trial kind of helps us both see success through.
Totally, yeah. Where can people go and find out more about you guys?
Yeah, so you can find us at ppcfarm.com. And if you want to connect with me directly, I'd be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn, on my personal page, Carly McMillen.
Cool. I will put the links in the show notes as always, and you just one click away. Carly, thanks so much for giving us an overview on how you can save your campaigns and your listings. And hopefully a lot of people will reach out to you and get the advantage of working with you for 60 days to see if that's a good fit. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.